right, hello. Today I would like to look at habits a little bit. A really nice thing in Jonathan Burrows' choreographer's handbook, when he writes about habits, he asks two questions. He asks, are you doing what you want to do, or are you following your habits? And then he asks, maybe following your habits is the right thing to do. So what are habits? Habits are things, right, that we've repeated so often they've become unconscious. We're no longer fully aware of them acting upon our dancing or activity, right? And that's so often what we're trying to create in dancing is habitual postures, practices, movements that we establish through repetition, to the extent that we no longer need to think about every little detail of, say, the dance or the choreography, and that they habitually are embodied. And we can sometimes maybe sort of consider this as like skill, as a part of our skill base to be able to do certain dances, to do certain activities. We have articulated certain unconscious motor neurons in our bodies which fire and allow us to perform things through multiple repetitions that have sort of created that. And also, as we're being creative with our dancing, there's a desire to challenge our habits. When we're learning new steps, we need to break old habits in order to develop new ones, which allow us to perform different activities, walking, stepping, jumping, however, in a new way. So we have to break our habits. And then in contemporary dance, there is a lot of emphasis paid on avoiding our habits through improvisational practices, and where there's a focus on finding alternative pathways that aren't habitual, and trying to sort of discover different ways of being in our body, to find new creative places inside of our system. However, there's also a lot of questions around can we ever step outside our habits, and what are we without our habits? Are our habits perhaps not even the stuff which we're made of? Which is why Jonathan Burrows' question is so great, when he asks, what are you doing? Are you doing what you want to do, or are you following your habits? Maybe habits are the right thing to do, so there's treating habits as negative maybe is not wholly useful either. So in this, I'd like us to look at habits and look at how they are informing our dancing, from a sort of neutral perspective, breaking them in order to do what, and to go where. Last workshop, we finished by sort of a call to acceptance and allowing the most easiest way of moving being something that we follow. Here we're going to look at the non-easy route, and the easy route, and see how that plays a role in what we want to do and what we are doing. So we're going to start with an improvisation, which I'm going to lead for a change, so you don't need to pause the audio this time. Just continue listening. I'm going to play some music for a change as well, and as we listen, you can just follow my instructions and do what you wish to do with them. There's no right or wrong. This is for you, wherever you are. You don't need to perform perfectly. There's no perfect in this. There is only what you wish to do. So let's start the music, and we can start by walking or moving in the space. So we're just moving around our room, maybe moving around outdoors perhaps. You have the possibility to do this outdoors. Maybe you are lying, but you can follow the movements that you can do from lying down or sitting down. But we're moving around and we're noticing our movements. We're noticing the weight shifts. We're noticing how we navigate obstacles in the space, in the room or near us. How we navigate gravity. How we move with the shifts of our clothing and the objects around us. And we move into spaces that we have accessible to us. We can walk backwards, we can move backwards. We can turn and shift whenever we want. We can also be caused to turn and shift by the limits of the room or the space or of our situation, of our seat perhaps. And as we're moving in space or moving sitting or lying, I'd like to just focus on what is initiating the movement. Is it the weight of our head? Is it our spine? And what if you are not the one initiating the movement? What if you are not the one initiating the movement? What if the dance is already happening without you? What if the dance is already happening without you? No right, no wrong. You are exactly where you need to be. No right, no wrong. What if you are exactly where you are supposed to be? What if your habits are information, not problems? What if your habits are information, not problems? What if you do not need to remember what you just did? What if you do not need to remember what you just did? Moving in one place, moving to another place. Nothing right, nothing wrong. However you like. What if our attention is the choreography? What if our attention is the choreography? What if the body is listening rather than expressing? What if the body is listening rather than expressing? What if it is not saying anything, but it is hearing something? What if you stop trying to make sense of what is happening? What if you stop trying to make sense of what is happening? What if effort is optional? What if effort is optional? What if stillness is active, just like movement? What if stillness is as active as movement? What if you trust implicitly that you are making the right decisions, that your body has made the right choices? What if you trust implicitly that you are making the right decisions, that your body is making the right choices? What if this movement is complete? What if you do not need to finish? What if there is no right scale for a movement? What if there is no right scale for a movement? What if you do less and notice more? What if you do more and notice less? What if you are not the one initiating the movement? What if the dance is already happening without you? What if your habits are information, not problems? What if you do not need to remember what you just did? What if attention is the choreography? What if the body is listening rather than expressing? What if effort is optional? Do not try to be interesting. Let the movement change before you understand why. Notice the movement you start to choose and let that choice dissolve. Allow the dance to organize you. Notice the moment you start to choose. Let that choice dissolve. Let stillness be included as fully as movement. Allow the dance to organize you. If something feels easy, stay with it longer than usual. If something feels difficult, let it go sooner than usual. Include stillness as fully as movement. Let go of improvement. If something feels easy, stay with it longer than usual. If something feels difficult, let it go sooner than usual. Let go of improvement. Let go of remembering what just happened. Continue until you forget what you were trying to do. Continue until you forget what you were trying to do. Okay, pause. Find a place to start to stop and notice where you are now. Ending without finishing, just pausing and reflecting. Including thoughts, including everything, including weight, balance, boredom, effort. Okay, great. So we hopefully had a little bit of exploration. Using my voice maybe as a score, as a distraction from focusing too much on the choices and the choice making that you need to make while you're dancing, and allowing us to explore a little bit the possibility or what's available to us when we try to avoid habits, right? And maybe that didn't occur to you so much, but hopefully there was a place in which you were having to deal with that question. And for me, of course, it's an impossibility, right? We are our habits. But I know what we mean when we say we want to challenge our habits, because we can get to places where I feel as though I am moving, or I am doing, or I am in some way doing something I don't recognize. I'm not fully habitual. So even though there is this sort of difficulty to imagine the ability to 100% avoid a habit, there's almost a paradox there, right? At the same time, I understand why we do it. So now, I'd like to invite you to try an exploration on your own, where you now follow your habits. So see if you can move into movement, get into movement, and then just notice how the habits emerge and how they situate inside you. And see if you can dance with only habits. Let's see if it's even possible not to have creativity, accident, and difference and uniqueness or diversion from the habitual exist. Or is there something of, can we even know fully our habits? So it's just a last short dance. Go away and create a dance of only habit. Okay, great. Now, as a reflective exercise, a way to consider what we did today, I'd like to invite you to consider what is repetition, what is practice, what creates habits. Perhaps you could write a journal or even a sort of a schedule. You can either reflect on the schedules, the practices you've already been doing and so on, or you can start keeping a journal for the practices that you're doing and establish a sort of measure by which you are forming habits and how they play a role. They're such an integral part of dancing, and at the same time they can also be completely whatever they want, whatever they are, I should say. You can just leave them alone and be with them, and that can be just as rewarding as sort of creating a practice to distinctly find those habits. So in this reflection, creating a schedule of what kind of habits you'd like to form or could form as a way to sort of engage in the formation of practices. So be it on a sort of weekly basis, or on a monthly basis, or a yearly basis. Like how are we informing the way in which our body and our dance are choreographed through habits? Hi, thanks for listening. If you can support the podcast, please go to paypal.me/dancepeter. I'm just looking for a little bit of funding to help support the cost of the hosting. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you so much.